These interviews in no way reflect the views of Arrayas Productions. This project is in no way endorsed by Arrayas Productions. As students in a continuous state of learning and frequency accretion, we each hold our own unique perspective of the teachings and how they relate to our individual experiences. It is important for viewers to remember that we are in fact self-sovereign beings with free will expression, and we each carry our own perceptual filters with potential for distortion. These interviews are intended to inspire, and in no way should reflect upon Iesha, Arrayas Productions, or any of her work, as there is no affiliation. More information on the Alhambra Magistracy Council of Cosmenius, the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, Tantriora, Tantriasia, and the Keylontic Science like last year, huh?
It was last May.
Last May. Yeah, coming up on a year.
Yep. So this is me in my PJs. Yeah. And with, oh my God, my hair looks just atrocious. God. All right. That's,
This is me at work. I'm at work here. This is my job.
oh, wow.
So, yeah, I just do 12-hour shift overnight and patrol every 2 hours, so I got like 2 hours here.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, they say to bring your own entertainment, keep yourself occupied. It's ideal for like college students that
Yeah,
have
totally.
stuff to do on the computer. Yeah,
Oh, totally. Oh, that's
pretty
nice.
cool setup. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I need to get caught up on a few things, and I just offered to record it so maybe be of assistance to other people that have the same questions that I do about all this. Because in the interviews, I've been just spouting off things that I'm not entirely sure of at this point, as far as like the 2/3 of the grids. And
Is anyone entirely sure of anything?
I know.
Yeah, like actually, it's like we're all talking about this stuff, but like, is any of us sure of it? Not really. So, yeah. So,
Well, I mean, according to KDDL and all the recent stuff, because to be honest, I really haven't integrated all of it yet, all the new stuff.
yeah.
So, and I think you have, like, you've been following it.
Yep.
Have you pieced it all together?
Well, I think I pieced it all together, but I don't.
Okay.
Maybe other people might disagree with my interpretation of it. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, the technicals are the technicals pretty much as far as what's happening. What's happening with 2/3 of the grid? Because it's always been 1/3 Christics and 2/3 grid war stuff, and us trying to make deals with these guys and stuff.
So
So what
that's
is it?
been a thing for a really long time. So back in the early period of so basically so I will just speak right now. I always take kind of chaos with a grain of salt. Like I'm always like, all right, this is the narrative they're presenting and it's from their viewpoint. So I'll just describe their narrative. And just if I kind of lapse into using their language, just know that I'm describing the narrative. It doesn't necessarily mean that I endorse it or accept it or whatever. But according to the chaos narrative, the so according to kind of the history presented by there, since the Atlantean catastrophes, I think about somewhere in the region of 10 to 11,000 years ago, those kind of catastrophes, about 2/3 of the planet's grids have been under fallen angelic influence. They've been running they've been running energies that aren't quite compatible with eternal life. So that is where that number comes from. 1/3 running Christic energies, running energies compatible with eternal life, 2/3 not doing so. For a long time, even into the recent decades, even into the early phases of the work, it was always like that 2/3, 1/3 thing. That's not the case anymore. So we have got the whole planet now. Like maybe some parts of it still resonate with those non-eternally supportive energies, but we've got the whole planet now, according to chaos, or according to the recent things. So got the whole planet.
Well, in one of the interviews, somebody told me that it's 1/3 of it is kind of donated towards the Fatale and all these other collectives that are going somewhere. So that's not true.
So in April, or not in April, in August 2014, in that last live workshop, it was stated. Now I'm recalling, I haven't done that workshop in a while, so my memory may be a little fuzzy, but it was stated that we are rebuilding the green and the violet shields as they were because they kind of got exploded during the October 2012 period. And I actually think that, like, I support that. I had an experience with that. So I felt just from that, early part of 2012 to then, I just felt this gradual buildup of tension and everything, because I do have a big connection to the green shield as well as, my own. So I felt this big buildup of tension. It was just getting worse and worse and worse. I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to cope with this? And then right on Halloween 2012, I remember the moment, just this like, oh my God, that feels better. Just this big whoosh.
Peru, right?
What?
Peru workshop, right?
Yeah, I wasn't there, but I was actually taking care of two disabled friends of mine. And I just remember the exact moment. I was like, whoosh. And I was like, oh, yeah, man, that's the stuff.
That was the activations on Halloween, right?
Yeah, no, that was awesome. And then
that's
kind of when the shields blew up. And then they kind of went their own ways. So,
well, let's go. Wait. Let's go into that a little bit, because that was a huge workshop for a lot of us. I mean, the notion of there being like double lines acknowledged, finally, and that there was people that were in service on the other side of the camp, the Metatronic sides and temples on Parallel Earth. That was like, that unclogged a lot of stuff for people, a lot of quandaries.
You never know who's who. You never know whose side someone's on until the cards finally come down. And when the cards came down, we won. So that was that.
We had the tokens and everything, those little token things.
Yep.
Yeah. What is that? What were those again? What were those for?
Those were just a symbol. Well, I don't remember exactly. Those were a symbolic. So there's this waterfall where a particular massacre occurred, and it's kind of like, all right, well, here it is. Here's all my coding kind of like smushed out, and like, I'm done with that. I'm sending this part of me off for healing. I'm giving this part of me, healing in this work. It's kind of just a symbolic token of one's affiliation to the shield, and all the trauma that happened healing.
Okay.
I kind of imagined myself there and projected there and did that. So it's kind of like, for me, it was just a giant, fuck you, I'm done kind of. Yeah. Because, of course, if I was going to do something like that, that is the way I'm going to do it. So, everyone else, I'm so grateful for this experience. I found something. I'm like, fuck you, bitches, I'm done.
Right. So, I'm going home. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going home. I'm staying here. But at the same time, doesn't mean I'm not going to tell off a couple people while I'm here.
Well, I mean, the histories behind. She went into more Earth histories in that too, which was, it had that whole campfire feel, everybody gather around type thing, like how it used to be whenever she'd go into the histories, and she hadn't done that for a while, I don't think. So that was really cool to experience.
Anyway, to get back to my original point.
Yeah.
So the shield, those two shields, the violet and the green one, shatter. In August 2014, it was mentioned that they were being rebuilt, and that some of them would be they would be rebuilt on an overall Christic orientation, but that about a third, that number comes up a lot, I think a third would be allowed to remain Metatronic of each of those, so that people who had who resonated with that energy or ran on that energy a bit more could use those shields and those gate systems to leave if they wanted to. It's like, all right, you want to go? There's the door.
This was addressed in Peru, she said this?
No, this is not. This is addressed in August 2014.
August, okay. What was the name of that workshop? I keep saying August.
It was the one that was just released. I don't remember the name.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I've been looking for that one, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that is where the 2/3, 1/3 thing happens. That those numbers occur a lot of the time, but in terms of what we know as Earth, our planet Earth, what Chaos calls net Earth, nope, we got all of it. It's just a question of who wants to leave and who wants to stay now.
Well, there's also the notion of like service contracts, amnesty, redemption type stuff, because
Yeah.
it's not like the people on those grids are just going to disappear or something. They're still standing on those other 2/3 of the grids in the space-time coordinate, like this
Yeah.
same location right now.
And that's
So
the planetary healing process,
yeah,
again, according to the chaos work, is that those grids are going to rehabilitate. Well,
with the
those
people that are on them, that knew those grids and were energetically vested in those grids, correct?
so a lot of people are just going to shift along with those grids, and that's lovely. Some people are going to hold on to their old energetic orientation, and they're going to have a rough time. And that's something we all kind of need to own as beings who are kind of like actively assisted this process, is that we have condemned a lot of beings to a really difficult life. I mean, really, it's the word genocide occurs to me, and it's not exactly the same thing, but it's like we have changed the substance of the planet so that a lot of beings will become like, my thing is, I think a lot of them are going to get cancer or like die really quickly, and probably quite unpleasantly too, or if they can't, get themselves activated enough to just directly use a Stargate. And we got to own that. Like, it's not exactly the same thing. I mean, there's a really complex political situation that led up to this, but genocide is not a far off description. And certainly if this all came out, these beings would probably have an active, like, they would at least have enough material to make a case to like the United Nations or whoever, like, hey, these people are committing genocide. And, we changed the substance of the planet so that they can't live here anymore. How is that different than genocide?
Okay. We, like,
Is in the planet, well, the planet and a lot of the Christic beings on it who just anchored all this frequency to get this particular critical mass happening.
okay. Well, I mean, there's a lot of pollution and there's radiation from Fukushima and all the chemtrails and all.
I'm not suggesting that that other side is innocent in any way.
But I mean,
And
is that causing cancer also and like sickness?
I'm not suggesting that there's not anything like that, or there's not behavior like that occurring on the other side, or that they wouldn't have done the exact same thing to us if they had the chance, but they didn't and we did. So doesn't mean I would have made a different decision. It doesn't mean that I'm not defending this decision. Like, that was the best decision we had available.
Well, I'm trying to understand like the difference between raising frequency and having human reactions to that versus the pollution, the chemtrails and Fukushima and radiation, people getting sick from that.
They're actually quite similar activities, just from a different, with a different end goal in mind.
Is it just rushing an outcome that was going to happen anyway? Like they're killing themselves off type thing?
Yeah. They were trying to, all that stuff, I suspect, pushes the planet towards their kind of end goal.
They were trying to kill us, but they're killing themselves. Like,
well, no, they were trying to, all those things kind of push the planet towards that Metatronic activation a little bit more, and all of our stuff puts it towards that Christic activation, and we won. We won that little contest, and so
I'm
now
gonna have to wrap my head around that. You just dumped a lot on me there. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. We were both having a tug of war, and they would have done the same thing to us, and we'd be in the same situation if we lost, but we won. So,
well, I know that they're incarnating off the planet too as they die. Like the soul groups they're not here anymore. Like they're progressively like incarnating their systems and.
I'm getting just my own intuitive hint that the vast majority of them are sticking around.
Oh, for like amnesty service contract stuff.
Amnesty. It's not amnesty. It's not a service that anyone's extending. It's like everyone who comes to Earth or who's on Earth or is connected to Earth has this opportunity. It's like, do you want to do this? Because
Okay, well, here's where I need to share my input on this of what I've been witnessing personally from these interviews. Okay, so it started with Avalons. And then there was just like a progression to this where people came to me in the same position in the public light, some of them running businesses and just absolutely integrating KS and in a position to do major outreach in the public light. To me, that looks like some type of service contract and prearranged type thing where it was like set up for them to do that at this time with the dynamics that are taking place also. What's your take on that?
Well, that sounds pretty accurate.
Okay.
So there's a ton of people who are just, coming on board and wanting to do this and doing it consciously. My view, and this is my own personal view, Aisha hasn't really talked about this, but my view is that this ongoing process of accretion we're doing for the planet, there's an end point. there's a point at which we kind of get the period at the end of the sentence, and a relatively complete spectra is happening. After that point, it just, the planet goes through its normal slow evolution, and you can continue reincarnating and continue doing the Earth thing here pretty normally. I'm really not a fan of disclosure. I really don't think life is going to dramatically change in the near future or anything just through some magical act like that. I mean, it really
I've been saying we got to disclose ourselves first.
And that's pretty lovely, but I'm not a fan of that. I think life will continue on pretty much at those, very similar to how it's been, just with that same gradual uptick. And maybe because life has been improving on Earth. If we look at, the 17th and the 18th centuries, like, how the quality of life was and what people's minds were, it was pretty bad. And it's been on a slow uptick. Maybe that slow uptick goes from like to like, maybe it kind of just gets a lot faster or something. I don't know. I'm not.
I think it goes hand in hand with healing ourselves, and discovering ourselves. So that's when, as we go at the halfway mark with the Guardians, that's where they kind of meet us. But so many of us don't know where halfway is. We don't even know where to start sometimes.
So anyway, that's my view. And that once those energies become available, it's just a question of engaging with them. Like, you can passively engage with them and kind of get swept along with the planet, or go again, or get swept against it, or you can actively engage with it. And then, my hope is still to get myself to the point where I can actively engage and actually heal my own body and get to that orbiting point, because that would be awesome.
To go through a gate.
No, it's not. When you're good enough at this, I know this. When you're good enough at this, gates aren't even a thing. It's like, I think of gates not so much as we use the term Stargate because of that movie from like the 90s. I don't think of them like that. They are a circulatory system. They circulate energies throughout the universe and just make those energies locally available. It's like a body having it's like we are opening the circulatory system of a really big body, the planet. And when those energies are available, we can metabolize them in our bodies, and a lot of processes that weren't happening just start happening again. It's like when a person has they're missing a vitamin or an amino acid or something, and then you throw that amino acid back into their system, their body's like, oh my God, there's so much stuff I can do now that I couldn't do anymore. Oh my God. That's what's happening. When that kind of period at the end of the sentence of the energies is put in, which I think is going to happen next year. Or maybe I'm wrong about that, but
that's another question while you bring that up. So the stellar activation ends 2017. That's the end of the window of the stellar activation. So what is this implying as far as the dynamics of Ascension Planet right now, and also timelines? Like, is there still 3 timelines happening?
Let me finish my point.
Okay.
Because I get into that. So when that last little bit happens, it's that energy's there. You can just metabolize it and speed it up by actively engaging with it, or you can just passively go along with the planet and continue on with its gradual evolution and everything. So in my mind, the stellar activation cycle is not about a time window to do X, Y, and Z. It's about a time in which X, Y, and Z is occurring. It's about a time to pull in some energies into the planet when it's particularly receptive. I think we pretty much got that done. I think pretty much the energies we needed to, like that last little period at the end, I keep calling it the period at the end of the sentence, that last little bit is going to get accreted. And then, this energy, this kind of interesting thing that needed to be anchored on the planet locally is there. And then it's just a matter of actively engaging with it. So do I think there's 3 paths? Nope. I think there's 2. I think there's leaving Earth, and I think they're staying on it and kind of engaging with it.
Has she clearly defined that, if there are different paths in time happening right now, or is it just all about the shift and sift thing?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's shift and sift. So
Which is 2 paths.
Yeah, 2 paths. And who knows, maybe more. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's a couple of additional variations about there.
Where does step back, or all these other terms that we used to use with the time stuff, fit into this now?
Step back got absorbed into the Christic pathway, so there's no step back anymore. You're either going and doing your Adashi return, or you're going and staying out here and doing whatever.
Because I've heard people in KS say that this is still an ongoing thing, that step back is still occurring with some people.
I mean,
It,
maybe if you wanted to do step back, I'm sure the option is available, but doing step back because that's the best you can do, I don't think that's a thing anymore.
well, the planet didn't choose that though. The planet has ascension codes, like it has fail-safe codes, and it's going up. So that doesn't. Everything's changed now,
Yeah.
right?
So if you wanted to do step back, I'm sure someone can arrange something for you.
Some probability timeline or something, right?
Oh, no, I'm sure you can just, I'm sure there's like a little, like, I get the sense of like in like the spirit world or whatever, there's like a booth. There's like a booth at like, kind of like a carnival or something. There's like one of those rides that nobody wants to go on. It's like, step back. Maybe like three people want to go on. Woo, we're going on step back. We're going to ride that ride so hard until we barf and then we forget who we are and we get to try again. Woo! Or
Okay.
something like that. So, yeah, I'm sure there's, if you really wanted to do that, there'd be something.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's interesting. I mean, that's a lot to catch up on.
So, most of that is my opinion.
Yeah.
She seems to be talking about shift or sift right now. So,
It
and
does seem to be simplified now in those
no,
terms, just very simple.
like you want to do this, or you want to go somewhere else and keep doing the thing you've been doing in like the world, not the world, but in kind of external reality the way it is, because you can do that if you want to. I personally do not think that that means necessarily you're going into a false situation. I think there's the possibility for kind of Adashi return and that kind of thing, even in like quarantine systems where there's all sorts of horrible things happening and everything. I think there's still that possibility. It might be really hard, but or really challenging, but I still think it's a possibility.
That's always been like a big conversation for me with some KSers is like in the memory matrix, because she's mentioned in workshops too that if you remember like a being that has fallen, you can gradually pull more of that quantum back on the other side
Yep.
of their template type thing.
Yep. Well, I seem to remember doing that a couple of times, so I think that's true. I still think it's an incredible possibility, even in like the darkest and nastiest situations. There's a possibility. You can do your dash your turn. You can get out of there. You don't need a gate. You just need access to that energy, and you need, and that energy can be found in a bunch of different places. You just need to initiate that process in yourself. And once that process is done, you can get the hell out of there, or do whatever from wherever you are. That is my personal opinion. I don't think that has been mentioned. It's probably been anti-mentioned in some of the various material and some of the various workshops and things, but that is my opinion on that.
Well, it isn't so black and white as like, okay, a black hole system is fallen and there's no access, it's cut off from God. Because, I mean, look at our system. We're in a black hole system and there was mechanics to where we were able to still do biogenesis and get ourselves up out of here. So I'm sure it's very technical depending on the situation and what system you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's my opinion on that. Yeah, no, I do think I still do get the sense that something big is going to happen next year. I always call it the period.
Something big's happening this year already. Like it's just amplifying, it feels like.
So maybe it'll be huge, but like something really big next year.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I call it the period. I don't know what it's. I like up there. Paul knows. Up there, Paul knows exactly what's going to happen. Me, I'm like, I've got no clue.
What are you seeing in the news and stuff this year? Are you witnessing the shift and sift happen in your hologram? Politics? I mean, immediate hologram stuff?
Well, first of all, I will say this to you all as Americans: what the fuck? Like, I politics in the United States has been really broken, but it's like worse than normally broken this year. So like, yeah, no, I'm seeing a lot of ridiculous political shit. Not something you could never think possible, because honest to God, whether somebody like Trump happened in this election or two elections from now, something like that was happening. It was going to happen eventually. It just happened a lot faster than I thought it was going to happen. I thought it would be like, maybe I'll be in my 40s, they'll be doing something like that. Nope, it's happening now. Yep. But nothing extraordinary. Like we've had a lot of shifts in Canada. Like actually the day of the last talk we had together in Alberta, we switched governments for the first time in 44 years. So we had progressive conservatives. So in Canada, there is a party for a long time called the Progressive Conservative Party. They're conservatives who aren't socially ridiculous. That's their whole theme. and who do care about public health care and things of that nature. And they governed well for a really long time, but they kind of lost their direction in the last 10 years. So we got rid of them and replaced them with a socialist party. It is difficult to communicate how big of a change that is. Imagine Texas electing Bernie Sanders as governor and a full slate of like, that is exactly what happened. Like Bernie Sanders, full slate in your legislative bodies, and they start to do their thing. Like that's what happened. Like that is huge. Same thing. We changed governments in federally as well. We got rid of the conservative government, and we got a new liberal government, which was headed by Justin Trudeau. And I'm not 100% with Justin Trudeau and his kind of governing party, because they've got this kind of Eastern Canadian Laurentian elite thing, and they tend to be really controlly of things. But I wanted that government to go, so I'm quite, I'm reasonably pleased with them. It would just be nice if I still think Western Canadians have a better philosophy of government than Eastern Canadians do. But we needed a change of government, and that happened, so that's nice. But in terms of like some sort of grand narrative, like some people in the disclosure movement are positing, nope, I don't see that. Not even slightly.
Well, not necessarily that, but I mean the shift and sift thing, like, because to me it feels like even if I'll just say it, like even if Trump wins, it's like that's almost like fuel for the movement that's already happening, that's already ignited. So I mean there would be more of a push to speed things up in that sense, and everybody's getting in where they fit in. Like it's very divided here in our country. Everybody kind of knows where each other stands now finally, so that's a blessing.
You guys have been divided for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean we've been divided, but now we kind of know a little better. It's out in the open type thing, which is healthy.
Which is, no, I mean that's the thing. It's just, yeah. So I'm of the opinion that it's gonna, like, shift and sift is an unequal process. There's going to be like 95% shift and like 5-ish% sift. And so, yeah. And those people you're probably going to know. I think a lot of that ascension process is just us working our crap out. It's like, if the ascension process really does happen, if this earth healing happens, I see a lot of governance actually not, disappearing into some kind of utopian ideal, but becoming more functional. People just hating each other less for, reasons of spirit, for reasons just that are unconscious or anything. People actually being able to work together and work on stuff. Like if the United States doesn't collapse, and I love you guys, but your government is probably going to collapse. Like I think Canada might make it in like the current economic challenges, but I don't think the United States will, just because it can't actually function any longer. I mean, I've talked to a couple of people. I talked to like Jesuit, and is that how you say your name? Well, anyway, I talked to Jesuit and a couple of other people who are really like Bernie. I'm like, you guys do realize that the president isn't really enough to fix what's going wrong with the country. Like your country's designed not to function, and that needs to change.
There was a video I just posted about that, actually, about if he did get in office, what he could change and what he couldn't change. And it was interesting. Like he's basically saying like the movement's already started regardless of what Bernie Sanders has done and being in this position.
And if that movement, it continues on, and that movement actually gets some of those governmental changes needed, good, that is what you guys need. Just don't focus on Bernie. Needs more than Bernie, like wholesale structural reform and institutional change.
Well, a lot of us are focusing on what Bernie is saying. Like I think that's what I feel, and that's it's kind of taken away the image of president, or he's saying a lot of stuff. He's saying a lot. He's able to say a lot, which is cool.
I do think he's the superior candidate out of the lot of them so far. It's going to take more than Bernie to fix what's right in Washington, but a separate thing. So I do think that a lot of this kind of process will just be us fixing what's wrong with things on our own. Like someone will come up with a big idea and it'll be like, oh, what a good idea. And everyone will implement it and things will get better. And we'll be doing that a lot until, life is better than it was.
Okay.
And we have been doing that a lot in like even the past century and the past everything. Like someone will come up with an idea and it's like, oh, let's do that. And life gets better. So it'll just be more of that.
Well, it kind of brings to mind us also, the collective us, because it gets back to my original question of what I was really wanting to discuss with you. is the 2/3, and the groups that are energetically vested in 2/3 of this planet that have been for however long, I don't know how long, and all the grid wars and stuff, all these collectives.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're going to be working with these people now, like Illuminati families, Dracos, all these fallen that are choosing to go up. They're choosing to work with the flows.
Already.
Huh?
Who's to say we haven't been doing that already?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just seeing this. Like I'm witness. Yeah.
So I have a group of like draconian people, and some of them are in physical bodies, and I'm not going to tell you who they are, but some of them are in physical bodies and they're around just keeping an eye on me, and others are in spirit and they're like my bodyguards, and they're loyal to me personally, not the Crystal River Host, although they do have, they're like, all right, we're down with that. Not the Crystal River Host, not any other guardian groups.
They have to be down with it if they're still here, if they're going up, right?
Oh yeah, no, they're totally. Is
there timeline writers? Like, I mean, some that are just like riding on the edge here and like
there's time. Yeah.
Helping, and then they're going to sift off at the last minute or something.
I'm sure there's a couple, but so my guys, I'll tell you about them. I used to run an Ascension school in Atlantis, and these were some of my students, and I helped a lot of them out of a really tight spot, and I ran a school for them, and a lot of them kind of actually got a lot of their codes back and kind of managed to make it out, and those that did kind of had a lot of benefit from it. So they kind of like, all right, Paul, we're sticking with you. Like, we're loyal to you, and not necessarily any of the councils or any of the political factions within the Alhambra or the Messiahs or the Guardian Alliance or whatever. You personally. I cannot tell you how wonderfully convenient that is. Like, just to have my own little personal bodyguard and, people who are keeping an eye on me and protecting me and everything. Like, it is the most wonderful thing, and I love my guys so much. And they're the sweetest little people, and, I love them. So, yes, I've had things like we've been working with, and I've always had a working relationship with a lot of the Anunnaki.
Because, are you seeing this in your practice, in your business, like people are popping up type?
I'm going to talk about my practice.
Okay. So okay. All right. Just your life. Are you seeing this?
Talk about it in general.
Okay. All right.
I treat anyone. I don't care if Lucifer himself came in to see me, came into my office. Like, if he sincerely wanted some work done, I would totally do it for him. I treat anyone. So I see everyone coming in for some healing and some stuff. And so I treat everyone. And and that's the thing. Human body is inherently coded towards ascension-y things. Like, it's inherently coded towards it in its development. Like, you don't have to do anything. It'll get there. It just may not get there in the span of a human lifetime. So if you engage really true healing, like with herbs or with homeopathy or with acupuncture, with auricular acupuncture, or with hydrotherapy or whatever, or with techniques, your body will get there.
Do you have to do techniques to get there?
I don't think you have to. No, I think your body will inherently take you there, but techniques speed it up quite a bit.
See, I think techniques are the codes of what's already inside you, and it just kind of tingles them, wakes them up a little. But you've already got all these techniques and codes inside your template, to ascend already.
That's the nature of the human body. That's what I think the nature of the human body is we have got this Adashi return and more pathway in us already.
Just reminders. Kind of.
Those things just speed it up a little.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because there's a lot of stuff that was eventually added in that wasn't supposed to be there in the human body, a lot of miasms and a lot of things, and techniques just kind of speeded things up and help us anchor a little bit more for the immediate political circumstances that we're in. So
I wanted to ask you about Sliders 9. What did you feel with that and the like it sped up the karmic process? What was your experience with that? Do you remember?
I do.
The Don Kiti flame?
I actually, Sliders 9, so when I make remedies, there's times when I get like a lot of like downloads, and I get a lot of information. I think it's electronic data streaming. I don't know. But Sliders 9 was one of those ones where I actually made a remedy, and it's called Emerald Lake water, and it's water from this lake called Emerald Lake in BC, and it's really pretty. If you just Google it, it's got like lots of nice images, and it's gorgeous. But I made a remedy, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. Like every point in Sliders 9 kind of confirmed. So yeah, I accept that. I accept that general thing. I didn't have any particular weird stuff happen to me during that period, but
I mean, did you feel the membrane and like the karma emerge and like
Yep, I just didn't have any problems with it. It's like, all right, see you, karma. Bye.
I keep thinking that one would be really good for some of the newcomers coming in. That just keeps coming up, like because there's some people are just like slam in their face with karma type things right now, just doing some of the techniques. So it feels like
Yeah.
Sliders 9 is kind of like a buffer, if you have the dynamics of how to slow down karma and integrate what that was about.
Recommend homeopathy for a lot of those people because a lot of people are kind of in a developmental place where a homeopathic would happen, would be really helpful. So that's just my own personal thing. I, as a professional, I can't recommend people do KS. Like I can't, and I just can't. Like there's some blockage in there. It's like, don't do that, Paul. Don't do that.
Really?
And yeah, no, it's not even like a fallen angelic thing. Like I've had fallen angelics try to like recommend me do stuff, and I'm always like, it's always really easy. It's like, oh no, who the fuck are you? Go. But it was like, I just can't do it as a professional. I can't recommend chaos as a health professional or anything. There's just something ethically inside me that won't let me do it.
Not even Maharic Shield or nothing. Just you don't integrate it into your work.
Oh, I do.
Or
100%, but
behind the
just not.
scenes.
Yeah, like I radiate that, and then I'm always very clear with my patients. Like, all right, take what you want, leave the rest. I'm not imposing anything on you. I'm just here with my own energies, and we're gonna work on your life together, and we're gonna maybe do a little ear acupuncture, or maybe a little hydro work, or something like that. Like, and whatever energy that they want to pick up, they can. If they don't want it, they don't have to take it.
I would kind of call that like a living embodiment of the work itself, to where you don't have to do all the 3D stuff. You're just kind of already anchored in it.
Yeah. No. God knows I do not manifest those damn virtues. I mean, that's the thing. I don't manifest those virtues perfectly, or any of the other attitudes or disciplines or responsibilities or victory. I'm not perfect with any of them, but I did get that right. Like I analyzed my ethical position in terms of my work and my the relationship of my meditative practices to my work, and I'm like, I'm okay with that. Like that is a good ethical decision. So I got that bit right, even if I may have fucked up the rest of my life. So yeah.
Cool.
And, yeah.
I think that's about it. I've covered everything. It's a lot of food for thought for me, and some clarity on the rest of the interviews, because I came to a halting screech with this last one with Florian, who's a newcomer, and he was in the Kabbalah study and everything. So I was like trying to break down all this stuff, and I kind of realized, well, I'm not sure about some of this after I went back on it. So it's good to.
The confusing part that many people are finding is how 1/3 and 2/3 kind of keeps popping up.
Yeah.
And 1/3 and 2/3, and those third things don't necessarily refer to the same thing. So, for instance, I described the 1/3, kind of 2/3 of our net Earth, but there's also a different thing. So let's imagine our original Earth, before all this stuff happened, Menti Earth, got split into 3 pieces. So there was Phantom Earth, there was our Earth, net Earth, and then there was Median Earth. Our net Earth got split into 2 pieces again. It got split into the hibernation zones, or Caduceus Earth, which is 1/6, and our net Earth, what we now know as our planet Earth, that everyone can see and agree on and thinks is real, that's 1/6 as well. So with that whole December 2012 activations and everything else, our net Earth, Caduceus Earth, and Median Earth got smushed back. They got energetically kind of reconnected together, so their energy fields blended, and then
Parallel Earth?
Not parallel Earth. Parallel Earth is a different thing altogether.
Okay.
So Median Earth, Caduceus Earth are the hibernation zones, and net Earth remerged their energy fields, and now they're going to slowly physically merge over the next however many years.
Where does Parallel Earth fit in this?
We got rid of them. They're done.
It's gone.
They're gone. They're doing their.
Because that was a big part of our quantum also, was shadow body. What happened with the shadow body? That was 3/4 of our quantum.
Yep.
Parallel Earth.
Gone.
Is gone.
Like, and that was shadow body. So Parallel Earth was different. Parallel or shadow body was mostly on Phantom Earth. Phantom Earth, we kind of disconnected from it in 2003, according to the work. So we disconnected from it. It's off doing its own thing.
Because, you're going to have some people, some old timers I know for a fact in KS are going to say that shadow body is still very relevant, to do that in flame body.
Techniques aren't relevant. Just means that particular that particular aspect of quantum of Earth is not really so directly interacting with the planet anymore. Those techniques are still good. You can still go in there and like pull in whatever quantum you want out of, like you may have some quantum left there. You can pull it back in, or I know there's benefit. I know there's benefits even if you pulled in all your quantum. There's still benefits from going through that process. So you may still want to do that,
even though it's gone and like it's not affiliated with Ascension Earth right now.
Gone is gone is I should find that term. Gone means there's no, again, according to my own intuition of the work, there's no really direct connection. It's like, how you can get an airplane flight from like Calgary to Toronto in 3 hours, and so it's pretty close. But then if you want to get a flight to like Nunavut, you have to go from Calgary to Fort McMurray to like Whitehorse to like Nunavut or something like that. So it's kind of like that. There's still a connection, but it's not quite so easy to get to and fro. So the amount of energy passing through those gateways is a lot smaller.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Instead of like Earth, parallel Earth, it's like parallel Earth, unnamed system 1, unnamed system 2, unnamed system 3, unnamed system 4, Earth. So there's a lot more further you have to go.
And it is so personal right now as far as people's healing, because when newcomers come in, they naturally, I myself wanted to naturally say, well, what do I need to do? Like, show me where to go, like which workshop is the best to start. And you can't do that anymore. Like, we're in self-healing, you have to literally sit down with yourself and look at it all and see what resonates and follow your discernment where to go. I can't give advice anymore to people.
So I have a general set of workshops that kind of like I recommend to people. It's like, all right, this is kind of the basics. But my big message to newcomers is just calm down. You're fine. Yeah. It's okay.
Right.
Like, you'll be all right. There's a certain amount of urgency that's to a certain extent unnatural. So just sit down. You'll get it.
Yep.
Don't worry so much. And it's fine. There's no time limits. I mean, I was talking about this with Avalon, and Avalon, I like Avalon. He's a nice guy, but he's all about like, Paul, when's the date? When's the date happening? When's the date for this and that? And I'm like, there's no dates. Like, do you want to do that? Like, there may be dates that a particular activation happens, but it's not like a train you have to catch.
There was old dates before, and there's tons of old dates. So, I mean, people just coming into this, seeing the free workshops online are like,
Voyagers was really bad about that, because Voyagers was like, if you don't catch the energy by then, you go to this timeline and you go to that timeline, and there's no timelines.
Well, even Camelot, even the Camelot videos that's still up,
Too. So Camelot as well. It's like, oh, if you don't catch this by a certain date, there's the thing. And I'm like, there's no date. There's no date. You can do it whenever you want to. Be calm. It's just a question of actively, like, do you want to go and do that pathway, that kind of ascension pathway? Like, I think that just wanting to do that, or even not even wanting to do that, even just like kind of having that innate unconscious desire is enough. You'll engage with it. The only question after that is, how quickly do you do that? How quickly do you make those changes? And I think working consciously with these energies helps you make these changes enough to maybe even get some real concrete results within the span of a human lifetime. Like, I read a book recently called it's called The Rainbow Body and Resurrection by Francis Tizzo. And it's a really good book because there's a lot of interest in the rainbow body phenomenon in the New Age movement. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about it, because the rainbow body is the rainbow body is a phenomenon in Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan Bon Po. We kind of think of Tibetan Buddhism as a big monolithic thing, but it's actually 5 schools. One of them is kind of an indigenous Tibetan religious tradition called Bon Po that's been influenced by Buddhism a lot, and another Bon Po, and another school called Nyingama, which I'm probably butchering the name, but those two manifest it. And so there's a certain set of practices you do. Those practices are kind of called Dzogchen, and then if you get really good at them, if you practice them, and apparently the consensus is for about 60 years, when people die, their bodies just shrink into nothing. It's like, poof, you're gone. That reminds me of kind of a lot of that.
Vibhati dust.
Yeah, it's exactly it. That's what they're doing. They've been doing this. So the kind of New Age mythology is that 160,000 people have done this, since the time of Atlantis or something. I have no idea where they're getting that number from. we do know that this becomes a phenomenon in Tibetan literature in the 11th century. So we do know it starts, and Tibet has a very extensive literary culture. So we would know beforehand. Like the first time people mention it is then. So, and even nowadays, in a place in, when Tibetan religion is quite, it's had a rough time in the last century with the Chinese and everything. It still happens like every year or two. There's this person got the rainbow body, or that person did, or whatever. So it's still a thing.
Is this the same dust that's left over that they used to try to steal real quick to get through gates that she talked about in workshops?
Different.
Different? Okay. There was like, what was
It's
that called? Something gold?
Celestaline.
Celestaline, yeah, okay.
Which is a whole other story.
Yeah.
But
okay.
this is kind of, in chaos, there's a thing called Bardo, where originally if people didn't kind of get their lives together and get enough kind of energetic activation to, get eternal life in this, or go through fulfill their eternal life potential in their lifetime, their bodies would die and they would shrink and kind of like leave this puff of dust and so forth. I think this is the same process as is going on with the rainbow body, but or at least an equivalent process, but they've been doing it for the past 9 centuries at least. So I'm like, okay, I think this process is pretty much inherent to humans. It's just a question of getting this energy kind of flowing in your body and working with it consciously. That speeds it up quite a bit. So my message to newcomers after my very long tangent, it's fine. If you have a desire to do this, you have an interest to do this, you're going along with it. The only question is how quickly you consciously engage with it personally, and how quickly you're able to clear your blockages. And there's not a huge rush on that. You can take your time and figure it out and, be calm about it.
We were talking about dates earlier. I wanted to go back to that. So we're working with councils that are outside of time right now, right? The Elasons, I believe.
It makes it the Elasa, yeah. Or not the Elasa, the Ephim, or Ephia. And yeah, no, Ephia. And it makes kind of an interesting point is if you're working with people who have no concept in time, and they obviously don't, like 6 months of a bloody workshop, like, come on, guys. I know you know time is a little difficult for you, but come on, just anyway. Yeah, they don't have any concept of time. So
be the reason for the lag in the workshops, then you're suggesting.
I have great sympathy for Yesha when she's working with those guys, because like, how difficult must it be to work with someone who has no concept of time? Like 6 months later, oh, time passed?
Wait, Effie stands for something, right?
Oh, I forget what.
Elasa, though.
No, it's not Elasa. It's like Eternal First Frequency Field or something. I forget.
The new council after the Elasons?
Yep.
Okay, I got to get caught up on all this stuff, man. This is I left off at the Elasons, and I've just been writing this no time stream type thing, so it felt like maybe that would help integrate it with these councils.
And it's fine, Chris. Like, it's the same thing. It's like it's there whenever you want to engage with it.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
Well.
So, but yeah, no. So they don't have a good concept of time. So asking them to pin down a date is kind of pointless. It's like, oh, it happens when it happens. We have no concept of time. It's
900
already
years.
Who knows? You want to travel into the future in 901 years and tell me what's going on there. I would appreciate that. Even that I would have my doubts about, but that would perhaps be a little bit more firm than relying on theoretically whatever's going to happen.
Didn't it shrink from like I remember it was like 1,000, at least a couple thousand or something, then the 900? Do you think after a few years it's going to shrink down to 50 years? You're like, well, now we're there. Okay.
All I know is I think this energy is anchoring, and when it anchors on the planet and becomes available just in the general planetary atmosphere, then it's just a question of whether we want to consciously engage with it and speed the natural process that will be initiated up.
Okay, so there's people already, quote unquote, going through gates right now, or you said that orbiting.
No, I did not say orbiting. I say I would like to do that. There's people who are engaging this rainbow body process, and probably a proper bardo. So they've been doing that for a while. Okay. So my opinion
on that. Where are they going, though? They're just bardoing, but we don't know where they're going. Okay.
I still think that's pretty bloody cool.
Yeah. All right.
So it's not like I've done that,
Seems
My
like the correct way to
my
leave.
my suggestion about this is that these energies which enable a person to orb or bardo or whatever, they're constantly available. You just need to know where you're going, and you need to go and consciously get them. You need to expend effort, know where you're going, and like, oh, okay, I'm going to go and engage with this process. Here I am doing it. La 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 la. I think that's always been a possibility on Earth, and probably other planets as well. You just need to go and journey somewhere and go get the energy from wherever. So that is my opinion on that. And it's just once these gates open and once that energy becomes active on planet, it's like that metaphor I used. It's like that extra amino acid becoming available in the body again, and now it can make all these extra proteins. It's like, oh my God, I can do this automatically now. So yeah.
You were quick to correct me on saying that you didn't say orbiting, but there was workshops where she went into the dynamics of orbiting.
Oh
Was
yeah,
that
no,
Sliders 10? Sliders
yeah, no, that was Sliders 5. And I,
Sliders
I
5?
say I said I didn't say people were orbiting. Maybe they are. I don't know. I remember talking to one guy. It was like that Grant Barlow, and he said that he orbed once. But I was like, Grant, what happened? Give me the details. And I never heard back from him. So I don't know what that was. But maybe there are people orbiting. I don't know. I know I'm not. And I know nobody I've heard in chaos who I've actually been able to talk to is orbiting. So, but I totally would like to do that. That sounds cool. I hate flying. I would love to go see my friends in Toronto or wherever and just like, poof, I'm there. That would be awesome.
I just don't know. Like it feels like this is like we're kind of all in this together. Like if one person starts doing it, then it's going to just spread type thing. Like I
Yeah.
don't.
And it's one thing. It's like there's a ton of people out there trying to undermine the system. You know what would undermine the system most? A bunch of people who are able to orb and teleport and do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
That would It's like if that's the case, like what is the point of government? What is the point of any of these things? What is the point of any of these things other than the immediate use they have to us?
Well,
Nothing.
that brings up the replicators that Corey Good's talking about, and these quote unquote guardian groups that he's said that he's working with, and that they want to introduce replicator technologies.
Yeah, I like Corey Good. He's a nice guy. I never got like an from him. Like this is how I kind of look at. There's people, speakers and things, and I just look at them and I read their stuff, and I'm like, oh, never got that with him. Seems like a nice guy.
Some people seem to have an issue with people having contacts, like that's kind of third party type thing, and it's hard for them to trust them, I guess.
I have contacts, like I've got contacts all the time. I've had contacts. I'm not going to judge people on that. But I think he's got it. He's doing good work. He's presenting it well. But like every kind of disclosure thing, I will believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
So he can talk a good game and all that, but and as I said, I don't think disclosure is going to happen. I don't think it's going to be something like whatever world leaders at the time will just go out and bring an alien out. It's like, hey guys.
Well, it would do more harm than good for sure for a lot of the people on this planet. Still, I think.
It would change one bit. Like if people would say, "Hey, there's aliens," and then they'd go back to watching that show on.
Depends on what the aliens were doing and what kind of aliens.
It does. But like eventually things would settle down and we'd all go back to watching Game of Thrones. And
I don't know about that. I don't think it would settle down because it like I said, depends on.
If contact happened, I would still expect Game of Thrones to happen, and I would still be on Team Daenerys. All right, so
it would be a little different. I mean, come on.
Well, no, but like seriously, the world, like that is not a big change. That is a change in our mental map of reality that most people have already made. Like aliens are happening, and oh look, there's one over there. The world has made contact with aliens. Is that changing the way we think about economics or the way we think about the way we need to treat other humans? Or
who are these aliens? What are they here? What is the? I mean, it opens up a Pandora's box you will never get out of after that.
We're still the same bloody fucked up people.
But we're in a different frame of point of reference now in the cosmos, in the universe. If there's an alien outside life, I mean, that's going to change our whole humanity, our whole civilization, everything.
I don't think it's going to change our whole humanity. I really don't. I think it's, in my mind, alien contact, particularly the alien contact that I think will be publicly admitted, it will probably be pretty diplomatic. Like they're not going to admit, oh, hey guys, there have been aliens here, for however many years, and they've been picking some of you up and doing things to you, and we can't do shit about it. Like, I
Depends
don't
on
think
what kind of aliens they're introducing.
I don't think that would come up because, that's just an inherent thing with governments. Like, no government would admit to something that they can't control like that.
If they introduced the Greys, that would be a whole different platform of contact. If they introduced a Guardian, that would be a whole different platform of contact. I mean, it depends on exactly who
like,
they're.
Regardless, like, let's say they introduce a Grey and they say, okay, here's this guy. They've been doing this to you, but we've managed to agree to get them to stop, or even not. It just becomes an accepted fact of life, and we go on being the same ridiculous people that we were before. We go on becoming having the same kind of weird economic system. We go on having the same beliefs about ourselves. We go on having the same ridiculous things that disclosure is not necessarily a change in consciousness. It is not us growing as a society, because there is no shortcut to that. There really isn't.
I agree with
There's
that.
no shortcut to there's not a magic button some leader can push.
We're still gonna have our processes, yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. But if it's like what Corey Good is saying, and it's this group that has overridden the Illuminatis and the cabal, and they're stepping into our governments to get rid of money, currency, and introduce replicators and help us heal the planet and be self-sufficient and 0-point energy and all this. I mean, that's going to speed up a lot.
That would certainly be a lovely change. But as I said, I will believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
And there is no shortcut to personal evolution. There are things you can do to get rid of stuff that's blocking you, but there's no shortcut. There's no shortcut to planetary evolution. And if aliens showed up tomorrow and gave us replicators, first of all, I'd be kind of like, what are you up to? Why would you do this? But second thing, we'd still be the same horrible people we were before.
Well, he was saying that they would be hack-proof, kind of like they would be programmable and have certain kind of like software, like you can't replicate this. You can only replicate within a certain frame of manifesting, I guess, or like there's ones for food and there's ones for other things.
Well, maybe they can get me one for all the expensive techno gadgets that I want.
Yeah.
Or for all the expensive medical gadgets that I want.
It would replace a lot.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, and that would be lovely. Like, I'd totally go back to medical school and do that if they did that. But yeah, no. So as I said, I'm not optimistic about that happening.
Yeah, it's all speculation land, really. That's kind of quantum drainish at some points.
Yeah, no. So I like Corey, nice guy. Seems to be presenting at the very least an interesting story. Maybe it's an interesting truth. I mean, I have no idea. I'm not there, and I've perhaps deliberately maintained myself away from that kind of thing. So, power to him. Hopefully that kind of thing works out, and that would be fun. So,
did you see the sleeping giants thing that he was talking about also? These tombs that they're uncovering in Iran, I guess, of one of them supposed to be King Anu, and it's like these big, these bodies that are fleshy and they look like they're just sleeping, and they're in these tombs and they're adorned with gold and all ancient types jewelry and stuff. And
then I hope the Iranians are smart enough to leave them alone.
Well, that's what Avalon talked about in the interview. He was talking about them and saying that that they're in a stasis type thing, but it's almost like an orb or like a bubble around them, where it's time released, and some of the Illuminati families are able to talk with them, and they were supposed to awaken at this time to carry out their agendas. It's crazy.
Well, maybe it's an interesting story. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not.
There's pictures of them on YouTube everywhere. There's videos.
There's pictures of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's pictures of a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So I will withhold. I mean, it's an interesting story. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.